because I did lose a bet. All I said was 420 likes, and you guys gave me 1,600. And look, not nearly as good as Sandy or Jordan, that's for damn sure. But listen, we give it our best shot. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Make sure you can see us okay in the comments. You can hear us okay. We have the one and only Sandy Munro, the one and only Jordan Giesige, and we have the panelists from the channel who have supported the channel as well to ensure we have a very detailed discussion about different topics related to Tesla, related to sort of the future of EVs, autonomous vehicles, the bot, and other stuff as well. But obviously, the ground rules are, if you're in the comments section below, make sure you keep it respectful. All our ideas, we're definitely welcome every idea. We want to get into it and really understand how things are going to pan out, but please keep it respectful. And thank you, Sandy. Thank you, Jordan, very much for joining me today. I'm so excited to have TeslaCon Part 2, baby. We're back. We're back.
Yeah. By popular demand.
That's right. By popular demand. Maybe what we'll do then, we'll kick it off with Jordan. I'll have you sort of, I know you probably have a lot of questions. Some of the topics that we were kind of thinking through were, and I know you threw out there, but I know obviously Cybertruck, $25,000 cars coming down the pike, the Robotaxi, the Tesla bot, and things like that. But what's sort of top of mind for you to kick off the discussion, and then we'll take it from there?
Oh, good question. So one of the first things that you mentioned in your email, I believe, was the Tesla's next vehicle, like the $25,000 vehicle. What is that? What are we expecting from that? And one thing I was thinking this morning is, what is the lead time for a vehicle like that? And that's probably a question that Sandy can answer, because right now Tesla's rolling out their full self-driving, and that may or may not be ready in time for a Robotaxi in 2024. So I'm thinking that they probably have a couple options there waiting in the wings. So, how long can they wait before they make an announcement for a vehicle for, say, 2024 to finalize the design, get the supply chain set up, etc.?
Well, with Tesla, they move a whole lot faster than everybody else. So as a rule, and that is the rule, it takes about 60 months from bubble up to first customer ship, or start of production, SOP they call it. Anyhow, but what we've seen with Tesla is that they probably don't, from the first concept drawings till the first customer ship is, I think, somewhere around just under 3 years. So 5 years for everybody else, 3 years for them. And I think if they wanted to put the pedal to the metal, they could get it even faster. So I think that if Tesla said they're going to be bringing something out in 2024, it's probably going to happen. Self-driving that's a tough nut to crack, but it doesn't matter. It's somewhere else. That's software and the mechanics, the electronics and whatnot. They don't really have to talk to each other. And all the boards are the same anyway, so it would just be a matter of downloading something over the air. So I think that Tesla could probably get it out in 3 years or less, and I think that a $24,000 vehicle with Tesla shouldn't be that hard. And I'll bet you they'll probably do 25% gross profit. That's based on, we do a lot of costing and whatnot, and that's based on what I see. And will a battery pack be the same? No, it'll probably be LFP, and they probably will not have dual motors and stuff like that. But I think there'll be plenty of opportunities for a $25,000 vehicle. To be quite frank, I think they could do it tomorrow if they wanted to, by utilizing induction motors and things like that. I mean, it's not going to be a barn burner, but at the end of the day, most of the people that want a $24,000 car just want a $24,000 Tesla. That's what they're looking for. They don't care about the other stuff. But I think it's right there.
Yeah, and on that note, talking about reducing the cost, one thing that Tesla said at the last earnings call was that they want to reduce the effort to produce the vehicle by like 50%. So there's things that you've predicted in the past, like moving to gigacastings and things like that, ways to make it easier to produce a vehicle. What are other things that you see in the future that they could potentially simplify the manufacturing process? For instance, one thing I'm thinking is simplifying the wiring and electrical system, or
Yeah.
moving to those Brembo Sensify brakes that were mentioned by Autoline. So
Yeah.
do you have any ideas there?
Well, those are two excellent examples of where you can start. But you got to remember that to move to a different wiring system or different wiring harness, usually you have to change the voltage and stuff like that. You go to 42 or 48 volts or whatever, then you can reduce the wire diameter. But there's other tricks that you can do too, and that's communication over power. So there are people who've done this and are doing it currently. But I'm not 100% sure how we would get it past the NHTSA, the National Highway Safety guys, or maybe some of the other agencies that you have to deal with in producing a car and putting it into the marketplace. 50% reduction could happen with a $24,000 vehicle easily, because you're not going to get the same sort of creature comforts as we got in a Model S Plaid. There's a lot of things that are going to be missing or different or just not there. And if you want to drop the price even more, the suspension system on a Tesla that we see in the marketplace right now is equivalent to what you'd see in a BMW. So you could drop a lot of cost if you move to say instead of a 5-bar link, you go to I don't want to suggest a twist beam, because quite frankly it's not my favorite, but that cuts the cost down by closer to 70%. It really makes a big difference when you move away from, and if I'm not going like a rocket ship, I don't need the same sorts of feel back to the driver. So I think it's entirely possible for Tesla to come up with that, and I'm absolutely positive that that if they just step back from building rocket ships and really fast cars and looked at it from I've got a guy here who doesn't have a whole lot of money. What can I do to give him or her the car of their dreams at a price that they can afford? So yeah, it's not a big deal. I'm positive of that, and still make money at it.
I feel like I'm monopolizing Sandy here, but I do have
Please keep going.
one more.
You have a mustache. You're allowed. It's okay.
Yeah. Mustache, and then secondarily, guys with beards, and then the rest of them who.
Yeah. Sorry,
lawyers,
Ken and Nishan.
Just
kidding.
That's
funny. Go ahead.
First off, that was really useful information. I didn't even think about the suspension. That should have been something that was obvious to me. But in terms of the high voltage, this is something I've been bouncing around, and I've mentioned it before in my videos and on Twitter, and people said, no, you can't go to 48 volt because 12 volt has such huge economies of scale. But what I'm wondering is Tesla getting to a large enough scale now where they could sort of command the market to move in the direction of higher voltage to get those economies of scale?
Absolutely. In fact, for the number of things that you'd need to have converted to 48 volts, they'd probably do it themselves. And then the market will scramble to catch up. And that's the way it works all the time. Elon Musk knows that if he does it, everybody will. I'll give you a good example. So Tesla's got the mega castings, right? Did you see what was in the latest at what is it, EV something or other? General Motors has got five castings that they're welding together. They won't be profitable. I don't know why they did it, just to compete, I guess. It's like we want one too. So everybody is diving into it. I've heard that Volkswagen's doing it, Ford is doing it, General Motors has published it. Oh, it's a big secret. Okay, yeah, we'll put it on the front page of the SAA magazine. I mean, really? Anyways, everybody follows Tesla. There are no leaders anywhere in the automotive world. None. Zero. There could have been. Well, let me rephrase that. I really think that Jim Farley is a leader. But wow, I mean, this is a leader where half the troops don't want to do what they're told. So he's one. And the other guy, unfortunately, was Dietz, and he got sacked. So those are the two leaders that, if we want to talk about the EVs that we can see nowadays, the only other guys that I would point at as being leaders are in China. China's got a leader. China's got Chairman Xi. That's he's a harsh guy, but you know what? At least he's a leader.
Yeah.
So there we are.
It's tough to overcome when you have an entire sort of country behind the movement of electrification, right? I mean, they're willing to throw a bunch of money at it. So
yeah, well, the people in China actually kind of are of one mind. I don't know how else to describe it. I watched, when I was training people in China in the past, people would have strong views on something, and Chairman Xi would put something out, and boom, it changed. Like when he decided enough prostitution, and he put out a little warning, said, and you ladies want to keep that up, it's going to be bad. And then he came in and he arrested like 500,000 of them over the holiday weekend, and then did it again and again. And now it used to be that you get little cards stuck in your door or taps on the door, and that all went away. It's all gone. I got none of that stuff in my last 2 trips to China. So they have a different mindset. There's nobody refusing to do what the big boss has to say.
Yeah. Just one question of mine, and then I hand it over to, I saw Borghan or Hans come off mute earlier, but one of the statements that you made, repeatedly in the past was around China, how China is a legitimate, and you just made it today as well. Like China is really the legitimate competitor to, say, even Tesla, but really one of the giant players moving forward in electrification. Do you feel more and more emboldened the more we go into sort of the present and the future, that's really becoming the, like how we reached a point where this is a sort of like a done deal, and the other players are kind of like, like it's going to be China and Tesla, and that's it? Or is there still a chance for, say, your Ford and GMs and everybody else and Volkswagen to legitimately make a dent in here before they become too dominant? How do you think about that?
Okay, so let's talk about the number one player in the automotive world is Toyota. Toyota dropped 2 million cars, maybe more this year, and I think they're going to be down to 7 million next year. That's a hell of a drop from 11 or 12 million down to 7 million. Why? Because they didn't stay focused on what was important, and what was important was electrification through batteries, not hydrogen. And I don't know how many times I've said this, but probably too many. Hydrogen is good for large airplanes, large ships, large trucks, not cars. It makes no sense whatsoever. It's just another hybrid as far as I'm concerned. Hybrids are useless. Why would I want to carry around the extra weight, fuel tanks and everything? It's like stupid. There's no reason for having it. So that's kind of like why Toyota is going to drop. Volkswagen, too many marketing guys making noises about, hey, I got a good idea. Let's try and push biodiesel. And I've gotten some, unfortunately, I can't give them out, but I've gotten letters that were delivered like via post office things, people that are working there and telling me that VW went on a marketing campaign to change everybody's mind. That doesn't work. And so VW is going to also take a gigantic hit. GM sat on their hands too long. Basically, we've tried to trace back, where did range anxiety come from? That's probably from GM marketing. Now they're trying their best to catch up, but I mean, they picked technologies that are going to be passé in a very near future. And it just, they made a mistake. BMW, Mercedes, Honda went in the wrong direction as well. All these guys, they believed they believed the big consulting houses. So, I mean, I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus, but I'm going to tell you what my next read is. Can you give me that book? My next read.
Book recommendation by Sandy. I love this.
A book recommendation.
Start a book club.
Yes.
That's it.
Oh, there we are. When McKinsey comes to town. Okay. I have used that line quite a bit because the big giant companies do what the big boss wants, or what's going to be good for the big boss, not necessarily what's going to be good for the economy. Almost never for the economy. They can take big companies and shrink them down into small ones like overnight. Good example, GE. Amazing. When I was a kid, GE made everything from light bulbs to jet engines. Not much now. So I think that they were listening to all of the big giant conglomerate consulting houses, and they weren't paying enough attention to the people, the governments, the environmentalists, the pretty much everybody. They told the big management what they wanted to hear. Oh, you're on the right path. Don't worry about anything. 2044, 2045. That's when you need to make a decision. And that's what wound up happening. In China, that did not happen at all. So BYD, I think, is going to give Tesla a run for their money, because BYD has got huge factories for making batteries. They own tremendous amounts of mines and refining areas, or at least have great big giant claws in those that are doing it. And even and no one said a word before. I mean, okay, Trump made a lot of noise about China, and now Biden's making a lot of noise about China. Okay, that's fine, but you know what? Nobody made any noise 10 or 15 years ago when they were buying up all the different mineral rights and all the different contracts for making sure that they were going to have enough to get everything they needed to get done. So yes, I think China will be very dominant. It's going to be similar to the Japanese invasion that happened in the late 70s and early 80s. And when General Motors went from 60% market share down to, I don't know what they got now, 15 or something. I really don't care. But it dropped an awful lot. And Toyota went from a joke. The first Toyota I saw had a chain drive. Are you kidding me? A car with a chain drive? That's like ridiculous. So, but not now. Now they're, or let's say for right now, they're the biggest. But I think there's going to be big changes coming down the pike real fast.
Yeah. Okay. I know, Jordan, you came off mute, but I also wanted to throw it to Borkhand. Did you have something you wanted to expand on this topic before I throw it over to our friend on the bottom left corner here, or are you good as far as this one goes, Jordan? You good where you're at? Can you hear us, Jordan? Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, sorry.
I thought you said you're going to talk to, or Borgen had a question.
Oh no, I wasn't sure if you wanted to expand on the point that Sandy just made before.
Oh, in terms of,
come off
I've been making notes all through this. So, like in terms of like this Chinese invasion, BYD, etc. I imagine they're going to have to, or they're going to continue saturating their own market. But when do you expect that we'll really see a ramp of those vehicles in the United States? Like hitting like hundreds of thousands of vehicles per year. Is that something we should expect before 2025 or after 2025? Because I'm seeing the same thing. It's just when I look at the battery packs of other manufacturers compared to Teslas, and when I look at BYDs, there's two levels to the game. There's the structural packs, and then there's the old style last gen packs that everybody else is producing.
Right. Yeah. So I'm not sure if you ever saw the little video or whatever where I talk about the Valley of Death. Now, I called it Death Valley, but I don't use my own research all the time. If somebody agrees with me, then I'm going to say, hey, you know what? Hey, this looks like I could put two of these things right over the top of each other, hold it up to the ceiling here, the light, and I could see right through it, and it'd be so Connect the Dots also did the exact same thing as what I did. And I said 2025 is when the invasion will start. And it'll start because there's demand, but no supply. And that's when you're going to start to see big companies tripping over themselves, faltering, whatever you want to call it. And that is going to be the beginning of the end. And it's just like what happened when, GM started bringing out little cars, the Vega. My brother had one of those. The engine seized up. Then they had all kinds of little cars that they just tried to make them cheap, and they didn't have what Toyota and Honda and actually at the time Datsun had. That it turned into Nissan, but that kind of stuff, they didn't have anything that could compete with that, and then he wound up losing. 2025, and then it's going to dip way into, and that's when the valley of death happens. So you can see the curve goes up, and then it goes down like that. That's where that curve where it goes down like that, that's the supply from the conventional OEMs being eclipsed by the demand for the type of product, and that's where we're going to see some bad things happening. And there it is, right there it is. That is that's the chart from the folks over at Connect the Dots.
Yeah, and on that note, in terms of scaling, you've mentioned that you think fuel cell slash hydrogen has some niche use cases that it applies to, like semis.
Right.
But one
Right.
thing that I'm thinking in that department is it seems like batteries are driving the cost down so quick, and there's so many efficiencies there that it feels like it's even though right now there's certain niche cases where batteries aren't the best for semis, I have a feeling they're going to get there before economically before like hydrogen fuel cell vehicles get there. Do you have any thoughts on that? Because it just seems like it's the first to scale, I guess, in my view, is whoever scales the quickest, that's who's going to dominate the market. Okay,
so there is range anxiety when you get to truckers. They they need to move from here to there, and they need to do it in a hurry. And then there's the other thing. Batteries weigh a lot, and the more batteries I have, the less load I can carry. So if you're talking to a long hauler, what's lighter? A couple of tubes of hydrogen and a fuel cell, or more battery packs? And what it comes right down to is that there is a crossover point there, just like what you saw with the Valley of Death. The crossover point happens when you start looking at continuous runs for more than 300-400 miles, 300 miles for sure. And that's where the big truck guys are going to be looking for something that is going to give them that long range. And I know Nikola was thrown under the bus and blah, blah, blah. Okay, so I drove their truck, and it drives really nice. It works really well. And the thing that it's got over everybody else is range. It's got a lot more range than everyone else. And it's faster to eject. You can eject all those canisters in no time flat and pop in new canisters. And truckers are very interested in getting from point A to point B as quickly as they can, so they can get another load and go somewhere else. And that's why I think that, and by the way, I don't know if you're aware of it, but you still have to have a shitload of batteries. To get from point A to point B, it's not just some fuel cell, because all that thing does is charge batteries. And it's better to do it with a fuel cell and hydrogen than it is to do it with a small diesel pup engine or something like that, or a turbine. We've tried everything in the, I don't know if you knew it, but I've worked in the truck industry for a long, long time as well, heavy Class 8 trucks. And we've tried everything. This is where a fuel cell does shine. It works out just fine. for this kind of an application for long haul trucks. The short haul trucks don't need it. Just have the batteries. You don't need it. Long haul, the truckers are going to want that. They're going to demand it, actually. Yeah.
What do you think would drive them to switch from diesel to hydrogen? Would it be the economics?
They're ready to do it now. No, they're ready to do it now.
All right.
Nobody wants the stink. No one wants the diesel fuel. No one actually. One of the things I do know, and I'm not sure if it's publicized or whatever, but on the Oxnard docks in Los Angeles or in around Los Angeles, there's a whole bunch of Nikola trucks out there. And if you go near the docks, you can see miles of trucks. And they're all sitting there idling because it's too damn hot to open your window and just turn off. So you've got them idling. And then you've got the Nikola trucks just sitting there. They're not making any pollution. Everybody inside the cab is still nice and cool, on and on and on. Now, I don't know if they're publicizing that or not, but I went down and have a look. And if you're in California and you need a day trip or something and you want to go and see, just go down and have a look at the docks and have a look at how much shit is going into the air. I'm telling you, you can hardly breathe in that neighborhood.
What's the name of this area, Sandy, again?
The LA docks are Oxnard. Oxnard is just outside of LA. And if you go to the LA docks, there's plenty of cargo ships coming in there. The other guys that are looking for that are the guys in Singapore. They're also not really interested in having. They have tugs. They don't really use long haul trucks and whatnot, but they have tugs that you get a whole bunch of containers, and they go into like a palletized unit or whatever, and then they drive from place to place. They're all electric now. They're looking at hydrogen because they want to keep going all day long. So.
Gotcha.
For that application, it's perfect. You couldn't ask for better. You can run 24 hours a day with that kind of stuff. With Class 8 deliveries under 300 miles, doesn't make any sense at all. None.
Got it. Ishan, I saw you come off mute for the semi discussion. Go for it.
Yeah. So it's a great point, Sandy, that you said for long haul hydrogen might make sense. But recently with the North American charging standard, we understand that the Tesla connector can essentially charge up to 1 megawatt hours, right? And if we consider like even the higher range trucks that Tesla is planning, the semis, it'll probably give like 200-400 miles of range in 30 to 40 minute stops, considering that truckers never really are at the peak of the load capacity that trucks are designed for. It's probably around 50-60%, right, of 82,000 tons. Not tons, sorry,
Pounds.
kgs.
Yeah, or kilograms.
Right.
Yeah, whatever.
Kilograms.
Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah, so they're probably at 50-60%. So that's a huge distance multiplier or range multiplier, I'd say. So considering things like this, is it still feasible to have like a significant market share of long haul trucking be battery electric versus absolutely needing to go to hydrogen?
Well, I never said that it was going to be the large haul trucks are going to be that's not going to be the standard. Not everybody needs that kind of stuff. So like I said, 300 miles and below, there's no reason for anything but batteries. Above that, yeah, that's when you start looking at this stuff becomes more and more feasible. And as far as truckloads are concerned, you probably noticed on the side of the road, there's all those weigh stations. There's lots of guys that they get nailed for being overloaded. And I think that in the future, it's going to be something where it's just economics. If the trucker can get, if he sees a difference in the cost of doing just batteries or or if it's hydrogen and batteries, he'll figure it out and he'll go in that direction. Truckers are very shrewd because a lot of them are independent. They're very, very shrewd businessmen. They don't want to know about what's the price of the truck. They want to know what's the cost, the life cycle cost of the truck. And that's where you see these guys, you say, wow, we're going to put brand X diesel engine in your truck. And they go, I don't think so. Because they know they're not going to get they want 1 million miles out of a diesel engine. They know they're not going to get 1 million miles out of that. That's where some of the imports from Russia gave a good shot at that. They tried to get their diesel engines in. That didn't work. And then China sent lots of diesel engines. First off, they didn't pass the emissions, and secondly, they didn't last that long. So truckers are astute people. They do not buy just based on price. They're going to look at their particular business case, and then they'll sort it out from there. But they always ask for the same thing. What's the life cycle cost of your vehicle over 2 million miles, whatever? Yeah.
Got it. On the case of Tesla and the Semi, so under 300 miles, pure EV makes sense for Semi. We did a little exercise on this channel on one of the forums that we had where we're trying to come up with the economics of what this Tesla Semi could look like, and we're trying to figure out what it's going to be priced at, how much margin they're going to be making on this thing. Do you have sort of an idea of what that could look like for Tesla? I think we were viewing, and I'm trying to find the freaking spreadsheet. I can't find it, but I think we were thinking somewhere between 100 and maybe 50 to 100,000 units per year. They could maybe charge about 300,000 per. Then you think about their cost. They should have a lot of shared parts between sort of the supply chain that they've built. Theoretically, they could leverage some of it to build out the Semi, so your cost per unit comes down. And then you have the full self-driving technology on top of it. So we're thinking somewhere between 40 to 50% gross margin. How do you think about the unit economics for Tesla for the Semi?
Well, for the Semi, I don't see much in the way of like the batteries. Yeah, they could probably use their own battery. But when it comes to the drive motors and everything else, that's going to be totally different. They'll use the same techniques and probably the same technology, but they won't be the same electric motors. You might be able to use some of the inverters maybe, but at the end of the day, the frame is different. The cab is different. The instrumentation will be different. The seats are different, or seat. Sometimes you just buy one seat. All this other stuff that goes along inside there is going to be different. And then regen braking, I'm definitely wanting that. I mean, I don't know if you guys heard or remember, but when Corey and I went across the country, we had to leave Eugene, Oregon, and then go up into the mountains, and we're like down to near to nothing in our batteries, and
in the snow, right?
And the snow was chasing us.
Yeah,
we didn't see this. We saw the snow every once in a while, but it was chasing us. And so, but when we went down the hill, got all our battery charged back. I mean, this was like free energy. I couldn't believe it. And that's kind of like what's going to happen with these big truckers. You can get 600 miles out of something if you're going up the mountain and down the other side. And not only that, you won't get a runaway. That's the big thing about electric trucks. There's no such thing as a runaway. If the things go down, your brakes don't fail. You're regenerating. Wow. You're regenerating. You're filling the batteries back up. This is like gold. It's like free. Actually, I'll tell you. Sue and I went. My wife and I went to a deal in Canada, and we went in the Rivian. So, geez, I went a little too fast, and I knocked the amount of miles that we had left down. We got across the border, and the little map said, "Hey, don't take the expressway. Take Woodward or something, because there's all kinds of crap going on." So we went around, and we're going down. We were in Windsor. I think we were at like 35 miles or something like that. And I thought, we'll get something when we get to the States. So we got across the border. We went on to Woodward Avenue. We're going along and along and along. Finally, we get to basically within 10 miles of our place. It's at 42 miles because I mean it's stop and go, and I only drive with 1 foot. I mean, or 1 pedal, I should say. It gave me mileage back. I mean, how much better does it get? What kind of a fool would, if I was, that's the worst time to drive a petrol car or a nice vehicle. You can't win. It's not possible to win in bumper to bumper traffic. The gas gauge goes down and you just get frustrated. But with driving in bumper to bumper traffic with an electric vehicle, or going downhill in an electric vehicle, and you get this stuff back for free, that's where truckers. That's why diesel is going to vanish in a hurry. Anything that's going to be east-west kind of travel over the top of the mountains, yeah, the truckers are going to be, we want that one. Yeah.
So I guess from a unit economics perspective, then Tesla could be making, so there's going to be a lot of demand for it, obviously, especially for the 300-mile sub sort of thing. So theoretically, there should be a lot of demand. Is it unreasonable to expect for Tesla to be able to make, charge about $200,000 to $300,000 for these things and make 50% plus margin on them, or are we thinking about this incorrectly?
Gross margin, 50% gross margin. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I see no reason why they couldn't make that happen, because actually they could probably charge even more, because once truckers find out about the advantages for electric vehicles, first off, just see the price of diesel. I don't know where it is where you live, but diesel is now to the point of being $4.60. Really? Yeah. That's cheap. It's $5.50 over here.
Texas,
it's
baby.
$5.50 right now. Yeah. So and that's only, I mean, I love politics.
Tell us all about it, Sandy.
We have no reserves left. I don't know. That was a great, I mean, if I was in the Democratic Party and I wanted to change everybody's mind about the cost of gasoline in the future, I'd have done exactly the same thing. That was genius. Deplete the reserves. After the election, everybody was, hey, what the hell? Look at the price of gasoline. But it's too late. I'm already in. Yeah. I would have run as a Democrat this year. Anyhow, at the end of the day, gasoline, diesel fuel, all the stuff's going to go up and up. We have no choice. It has to go up. So is natural gas. We have no way of doing anything but that. And electricity is going to look like the golden opportunity from a business standpoint if you're a trucker.
Interesting. So it's going to be a forced transition through economics more than anything here, which is like really the best way to have a transition in the end.
It is.
No more sticky.
The real transition will no government has ever talked anybody into anything for more than a couple of years. This transition is going to happen because economically it's the right way to go.
Makes sense.
That's what I say.
Yeah. Hans, go for it.
So, yeah, I'm curious so we heard that Tesla's not making the current semi with 4680 batteries. So is that a surprise? What do you think they're using? Is it the 1865s or is it going to be the 2170s? And then do you see that changing kind of, are they going to move to 4680s as they scale that up and do a structural battery pack?
That's just a matter of being able to produce product and which one makes the most sense as far as cost is concerned. Right now, scaling up the 4680s is turned out to be a bit of an issue because they've got so many people that want that battery. So the demand is in the cars, and those cars they work a lot better. Everybody that I know of that's got a Model Y with 4680s in it is tap dancing all the way to the bank. They're happy. Everything's good about the 4680s in the cars. To put it into the trucks, the big trucks, it depends on when the truck actually comes out and how quickly Tesla has ramped up the 4680 builds. But 2170s, they got tremendous. I mean, there's nothing. Okay, it's a little heavier, and you get a little more power out of the 4680s, but So what? I don't need that as a truck driver. I just need to get from point A to point B, and I want it at a good price, and I don't want the batteries to die. 2170 works just fine. So I think that that's probably what they're gonna go for, and that's what most car companies are looking at anyways. 4680. They might even drop down, although I doubt it, but they may even drop down to LFP batteries on those big rigs as well. It's hard to say. I haven't got a real good handle on what could work because no one's ever really done the experiments. None, and that's. I mean, we're talking right now, but really, I'm speculating or guessing. I don't have good hard data in back of this. It's just based on my experiences in the past and what I'm pretty sure about as far as what the future is going to look like.
Got it. Jordan, go for it.
Do you think there would actually be any benefit to a 4680 structural pack in the semi? Because I'm assuming it's like a body on frame design. So would it?
Yeah. No kidding. The 4680 is a better way to go. It's going to give me more power. It's going to be lighter. It's going to be more cost effective. It's going to be longer life. It's going to be easier to cool. 4680 is the way to go, period. That's why there's a whole bunch of guys in China and in Korea that are copying it right now. They're doing everything they can. They've changed a little bit here and there, but it's basically the 4680 because that is a perfect form factor. When we were fooling around with, I don't want to get into too much, but anyway, we were fooling around with battery design, and so we had a 5080, and it didn't quite get to where we were hoping it would get. But with the 46, by making it slightly smaller, it's easier to cool. I can pack them in tighter. I mean, this is just nothing but a big ass math problem. It's always the same thing. If you always can break it down to mathematics or physics, you're in. It's that's how you do it. So.
Sandy, I just came up with a new merch line for you guys. It's nothing but a big ass math problem. Get somebody on it.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it's nothing but a big. It's true. I mean, you think about it. Now I'm never going to be a marriage counselor, and if you've got a love life problem, you come to the wrong store. But everything to me is just a math problem. It always works out to whether it's electrics, electronics, cooling, heating, mechanics. I don't give a shit. It doesn't matter. It's always comes down to a math problem. Some are solvable and some have to be worked on, and then they're solvable. But all problems, apart from, like I say, more emotion and all that crap.
If it's not human involved, it's solvable.
Well, there's always humans involved. It's just that when they start going on about my cat got run over, my wife ran away, I don't care. Get out.
It's still a math problem.
It's still a math problem. Yeah. Are you going to show up tomorrow? That's the math problem.
Yeah. Are you surprised by the speed of Tesla's? I guess not surprised, but what are your thoughts around Tesla's current 4680 ramp altogether? So I think it's been sort of a little bit well documented that, so at least on the earnings calls, it seems like one of the questions they always get is like, hey, 4680, it's going slower than it seems. It's going slower than it seems. And of course, it has a lot of challenges. But any thoughts around how Tesla's progressing on that front?
Personally, I think that they're changing the chemistry on the fly. It's you saw our things when we tore apart the Tesla batteries that we had, the 4680s we had, and we wound up with different results than the one that Galley sent off to UCLA or wherever it was that they took it apart. We were talking about fume hoods and we'll do it outside and everybody has to be in a spacesuit and whatnot. Finally, we pulled the can to pieces and nothing happened. And when we pulled it apart, it was a lot drier than I was anticipating. I mean, they call it a dry cell, but that's pretty dry. I think they're within spitting distance. Oh, little joke on liquids, but anyways, spitting distance of a solid state battery. And it's certainly when I went and looked at the guys' battery packs, the solid state battery packs that that they did over at QuantumScape. And then I called them on it as well and said, hey, this looks like a semi-solid state battery, not a solid state. Well, yeah, I guess. So that's kind of like what I looked at, was something, almost a semi-solid state battery. And I'm sure you're going to get a ton of viewers saying, he's incorrect. And now let me talk. Okay, fine, go whatever you want. But
I'm
I
looking at the
think
comments
that-
right now, Sandy. I'll let you know.
Oh, really? Oh, okay, good. But anyway, what I'm seeing is that I think they're changing the chemistry on the fly, on the hop. And I think they've got different batches that are out there to find out how did this work versus that. And Tesla people, or Tesla buyers, myself included, don't mind being part of the grand experiment. I mean, I'll tell my wife not to watch this program, but this year my wife is going to get a Model Y for Christmas.
Ooh.
That's right.
Nice.
And guess who's going to be the luckiest guy on the planet?
This guy
Me.
right here.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of like what I see. And I want 4680s. I want it built in Texas, on and on. I think that my wife, she likes the Rivian, and she said that it's her car and everything, but it's in my name. But she likes the Model 3 better, and I think she'll like the Model Y even better than that. So
Interesting.
yeah, all I got to do now is get a connection with somebody at Tesla to try and get one in a hurry, because they told me it's going to take a year and a half or something.
Wow. Well, I tagged
Okay.
Elon on this on Twitter, so I'm sure he's watching. We got you.
Oh, is
Sandy.
he? Oh, excellent. Great. Elon, can you help me out? I'm not like
Community.
asking for a new rocket ship or anything. But, yeah.
Go for it, Ishan.
Community, can one of you go change an entry in a database?
Ah, there you go.
Sandy, DM Farzad your order number.
I don't work there
Oh,
anymore. I
okay.
have nothing. I can't do anything.
I'm
No,
not
Farzad's got friends.
Well,
That's funny.
I'm gonna tap into everybody that I possibly can to see what I can get.
Yeah, for sure. Any questions from the panel along the lines of 4680? Anybody have any questions around that, or should we go ahead, Richard?
Or answers.
Actually, I'm
Or
back.
answers.
I'm way back in China, and I know you and you're not under oath. Just so it's clear. And
Good
I
to
was
hear.
wondering, besides BYD, which I think makes about half their products are hybrid, so they're like half EVs, half hybrid, and I know there's NIO, Xiaopeng, and Li. Any others that you think are going to be competition for Tesla?
Yes, I think that you're going to find that Geely, they're the guys that they own Volvo. They're going to be big into it. I think you're going to find that FAW is going to be competing in the truck industry, plus the car industry. And there's also Beijing Automotive. They're huge. They have tremendous amounts of assets and whatnot. So I think that they're going to be in there. And they're quite I mean, NIO and Xiaopeng, they get a lot of press, but when you boil away the ocean a little bit, you start to find out that there are bigger companies than them. They're relatively small. Nice car though. I'm telling you, I worked with or trained or whatever you want to call it, the guys over at NIO and Xiaopeng, but I think that there's tons of opportunities for other car companies. They have. When I was there the last time, which was in 2019, my speech was interrupted by a dog. Oh,
My dogs are very excited about
yeah.
Chinese car companies.
They're agreeing with
Oh,
you.
I knew it. I just
Yeah.
knew it. I just knew it. But anyway, when I was there last, I was supposed to be the keynote speaker, but I got bumped, and Chairman Xi came on, and he said there was something like 650 car companies in China. He wanted to see it down to 350 in 2 years, and then 150 down by 2025 or 2028, or I can't remember. But anyways, a lot. That's still 150 car companies. Holy mackerel! 100.
Mhm.
We have 2 in the United States. Chrysler can't be counted because they're not a U.S. company. They may have been a U.S. company, but they're not. So we have 2, and they're trying to get to 100, get down to 150. There's going to be plenty of competition. coming out of China, plenty.
What do you see from Korea and then also Polestar?
Well, Polestar is owned by Volvo. Volvo is owned by Geely. There's two more car companies that are, there's two more car badges that I can't talk about, but they're going to be coming out of Norway and Sweden as well. Same sort of a deal, same by Geely. Geely had an operation that they were going to try and ramp up here in the US. And basically Trump ran them out, luckily maybe, but I don't think so. And so I think you're going to see that Geely will be entering the market, and probably they probably bought the land that they need. I know that they've still got some operation in California, and I know that they've got something going on in Ann Arbor, Michigan. So they're not going to be sitting on their hands. Another one we haven't even talked about as far as really good EVs is Hyundai and Kia. Those are
The
damn
Onyx
good
looks
cars.
good.
Yeah, they look
Yeah.
good, but even better than that, they perform well. So I've been pushing. I've said in the past that Polestar and the Mustang, if you're looking for a car, and blah blah whatever. But what I haven't, because we haven't quite done all of the things we'd like to do, that's coming up real soon. But I think that when we get a hold of a couple of Hyundais and start tearing them into them, I think we're going to find that they're leaving a lot of other people in the dust, and that's a fact. So I'm looking forward to getting that. But the other one that nobody even knows about, I guess, is VinFast. These guys have an 8 million square foot factory in Vietnam. They're cranking out cars that are really, really nice. I went to Vietnam. I got a chance to drive them. I watched what they were doing and how they were doing it. I was really impressed, especially with the VF9. The VF8 is kind of a nice vehicle, but the VF9 I think is going to have they're going to be kicking some serious ass when they bring these things to the States. And they're building their factory in North Carolina right this very second. So apart from some of the other, like BYD has operations here, but they make electric buses and things like that. That's another one that probably will enter into the Class 8 marketplace with and probably build them. They built one factory, they twinned it, and now they're talking about twinning it again. So that would be from 1 to 2 to 4 factories. And if they're doing that, my guess is that they're going to be getting into the Class 8 business real soon, and maybe start producing enough here in the U.S. that like they build a body and then ship over the batteries. Some Chinese companies are going to be building the cars in China and then shipping over here to try and fill them up with batteries. And one of the guys that's out there that could do this kind of stuff is Arnex Energy, Mujib Ijaz, that's his company. And they just got about $1.2 billion or something like that to ramp up their LFP batteries. But I don't need a rocket ship if I'm a grandma. Well, I'm a grandpa. Actually, I'm going to get another grandchild so soon. Like,
Congratulations.
Nice.
yes,
That's
thank you so much.
awesome.
Yeah,
Wow.
in about 2 weeks. Just
Wow,
before,
beautiful.
yeah, it's already timed. Kids today
Yeah.
already timed. That's great. I mean, used to be roll the bones in the olden days. But anyways, I think that we're going to find more and more that there's going to be surprises that are going to come out of left field, and they are just going to take market share from, like I mentioned, Toyota, Volkswagen, GM, all the big noises are. That's where they're gonna take a bite out of them. It's going to be like 1,000 piranhas on a cow. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for these guys. Very tough.
Let's do Hans and then Ishan and then Richard, because I see everybody's off mute. Go for it, Hans.
Yeah, so on that topic and tying into some of the things that we've already talked about, it seems like we're seeing a little bit of pushback in the Senate on the EV bill. and that they're wanting to reduce the amount of domestic production limitations that are on the bill and then push out timelines. And one can only wonder if that is coming partially from GM trying to buy themselves more time. And do you think that basically they're gonna, in trying to buy themselves more time, they're actually going to create more opportunity for more foreign automakers to capitalize on more of the domestic credits and basically kill themselves?
That's precisely what happened during the Japanese invasion. Exactly that. They tried everything they could, and all they did was lose face with the American people. Now, you have to remember, the war ended in 1945, and people like my dad's age, now my dad fought on the European front, but a lot of people that I knew fought on the Japanese front or the Eastern front. And there was a lot of bad talk and a lot of, I'll never buy one of those cars ever in a million. But guess what? When it came right down to it, GM especially started to look really bad because their product was crap. The prices were outrageous. And the Toyota guys, I mean, you meet the nicest people in a Honda. That wasn't the, I mean, I can remember one, I can't remember which one it was, but buy a whatever with road hugging weight. You need road hugging weight. You need to get a bigger engine at 8 miles a gallon. I mean, they shot themselves in the foot every time. And they got the US government to help them out. And it worked for a while when Carter was in, but then we got into a gigantic recession, and yeah, the rest is history. And so now you see the biggest car company on the planet, which used to be General Motors, is now is now Toyota, and that's what happened, and it's going to happen again. I mean, people who don't read history books are doomed to repeat the mistakes, and that's kind of like what's going on right now. This is as clear as anything to me because I lived through it. And like I said, they're creating a Chinese animosity, but we never went to war with China. There was no atrocities that the Chinese ever pulled on us. But I can tell you what, if my relatives were all from Canada or Britain, and they had plenty of stories about Hong Kong and being captured and Burma and all these other horrible things that happened. And if you really wanted to hear horror stories, like when I was a kid, I worked on both sides of the border at machine tool companies. Go and walk around in the plants and talk to some of the guys that were, Iwo Jima or any of the, or worse yet, the Philippines. Holy moly. If I discounted 50% and just said it was a lie, period, it still was 8-10 times worse than anything I could ever dream up in my worst nightmares. And I think that what's going to happen is, yes, government will go and get involved, and yeah, they're going to do everything they can to try and keep out the tide, but it is the tide, and it just doesn't work. You can't make anything work when public opinion goes against the way we're doing things right now. And the public opinion on ICE vehicles right now is more than 50%. And as old guys die and or as new people come into the buying market, it's just going to fade away, just like what happened in the late 70s and early 80s.
It's almost like the human sentiment version of Mother Nature. Like it's happening regardless, right? And you just have to figure out how to wade through it.
Exactly. Exactly right.
Yeah. Ishan, go for it.
Yeah, so speaking of the Chinese invasion, one thing that we've seen is that there is a segment of vehicles on the smaller side that are getting popular in China. I'm not talking about that Matchbox car, Wuling, right? But then in China, and then in India, where I'm from India, and we recently had a very decent $10,000 EV launched by Tata. It's gonna be delivery start, I think, Jan next year. So we have started to see, even if at a lower volume, these vehicles come out at 10, 15, 20. SAIC, through their brand MG, it sells a $30,000 vehicle, the MG ZS and it's a brilliant car. I mean, I can't find anything wrong with it. So we already see vehicles at this price point, like the Delta is probably uh, 5,000-7,000 dollars within the price point that we are talking about. Uh, how do you see this larger, I would say, a lot of other car companies, not just Tesla and BYD, etc., contribute to uh, the entire ecosystem of driving the prices down that a retail customer can then get into an EV for?
This is the big opportunity. Tata, by the way, was our customer for a long time. We actually worked on the Nano. We actually helped reduce the cost of that. So Tata has been a customer of Munro since like 2012 or something like that, a long time anyway. And so I am familiar with some of the cars that are being put out, not just by Tata, but also Mahindra. Actually, one of my favorite cars is the Quid. I mean, I know they couldn't get homologation or crashworthiness and whatnot, but it's a great car. Sells for $7,000. Holy shit! I mean, are you kidding? Do you know how many people would buy that if they could get it over here? Well, that's where we got rules and regulations to keep countries like India or products like the Quid out of their market. The other thing that you're looking at is the we call them K vehicles at Ford, and these are smaller vehicles, smaller than a Class 1, and these vehicles work fine in Europe, but for some reason or other we can't have them here. And the reason for that is probably because the big vehicle companies don't want to see them, because they can't compete with them at all. I think that there's going to be a slight problem. There's going to be these vehicles. They're going to want in, and we're not going to be able to say no because we want something from them. In China, we need a lot of stuff that they produce. I know there's a lot of guys in Washington that pound their chest and say, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. But at the end of the day, there's nobody here that can produce the stuff. Batteries being one of them, we can't produce fast enough, simply because there's government rules and regulations about mining materials, and refining is even worse. And then you've got these great big giant companies that are continuously trying to hold back any sort of an invasion. They may not remember it in detail, but they do remember that once upon a time there was no Tesla car company, and they don't want that to happen again. So I think that as we move into electrification, these small car companies are sorry, let me rephrase that, because Tata is huge, not small at all. But they're producing electric cars that I think Americans would want to buy. And it's not like they're junk. The stuff, that's the first thing that comes out is, oh, these things are just going to fall apart right before your eyes. They said it about Japanese cars. They've said it about the Korean cars. They've said it about the Chinese cars. And they've said it about the Indian cars. And guess what? It's always the same. It's marketing. It's like, you want to have a campaign, a marketing campaign, go and talk to Harvard. That they'll help you out. They know how to stir up the anti-sentiment. Oh no, it's double. Harvard's lying, huh? I'll just shoot myself later on. But anyway, these all come from marketing. It's just crap. It's baloney. They don't take any cars apart. They don't know what's inside. They've never tested drove them or nothing else like that. Their job is to try and kill sales, and that's I guess it's a job, but not for me. So,
Go ahead,
but
Harvard
anyway,
man.
I think the Tata vehicle, based on what I saw, is going to be, it'll be great in the Indian market. Well, let me rephrase that. As long as India can continue to make, and for those that are adverse to this, you block your ears right now. But they in India, they're going to need more nuclear reactors, and that is a fact. That's the only place that they're going to get power. There's no hydroelectric power. There's no chance that they can pull enough natural gas out of the dirt. But with nuclear power, and by the way, for those who want to go and write you a nasty gram, France is like 90% nuclear, maybe a little less now that they put up a lot more windmills. But they the only guys that really don't like nuclear is Germany, and they should have been involved. But Britain put up 3 new plants here in the last 5 or 8 years, and we're still.
I believe there's deep partnerships between India and France on nuclear power.
Yes, and if we get any nuclear reactors over here that are using uranium, then I think we should just buy them from France. But that's just me. What do I know? And by the way, Munro is working on 2 portable nuclear reactors, but they don't use uranium, they use thorium. So there you go.
Whoa.
Thorium is a lot less exciting.
Can they be deployed in India? India is like the world capital of thorium, right?
Is it? Well, then in that case, I will notify. I'll notify our customers. I think first they need to get them.
There's a lot of thorium in India, from what I hear.
There's a lot of it right here in the United States as well. The Badlands that go between Canada and the United States, between Wyoming and North Dakota, and if you go north, that would be Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. That can't grow anything. It's like not even tumbleweed grows there. But there's plenty of thorium, there's plenty of lithium, lots of materials there. But there's a lizard, some sort of a prized lizard. Can't dig. Yeah.
Richard, go for it.
Yeah. So first of all, you're an icon in the industry, and it is a pleasure being able to hear from you. Really. So I just wanted to let you know that. And before I'd ask you to comment kind of on the importance of battery recycling in the future for EVs, and how you kind of see that business developing over the future. And before you comment on that, I wanted to ask you about a couple of the American EV companies and whether you thought they will produce cars and be successful. And the 2 I was going to ask you about were Lucid and Fisker.
Yes and no. I think Lucid's got a really good opportunity to make things happen. Fisker, okay, so they have a really good, a really well-known company that they're working with in Magna. Magna is they call themselves, everybody else is a tier 1, but they're a tier 0.5. They already build cars. They know how to build cars. They know how to make things happen. And as long as Mr. Fisker doesn't have anything to do with the car company, they'll survive. As soon as he shows up, not so much. So, but I also know Peter Rawlinson well, not as a a drinking buddy or something, but as an engineer. And there you go, triple. Well, that's good. How many are they making? 150,000 a year. So they're probably going to be that's a big number. But Magna is like phenomenal. They built cars for Mercedes, BMW, Chrysler, lots of different companies, and they're very, very good. And if they say they can build 150, then that's that. But if Mr. Fisker gets involved, then all bets are off. He has to be kept away from anything. That's the reason that none of the other car companies came to fruition. He's already had like 4 car companies. And to me, it's like, I cannot understand how people can reach into their pockets and fund another something when so many of his products have failed. I mean, and now, like I say, he's out, Magna's in, that might happen. But there's no doubt in my mind that Lucid is going to do just fine.
And on the battery recycling, how do you see that industry developing, and how would you kind of state the import to kind of the growth of EVs in general?
The biggest I've talked to several different companies that do recycling, and they're getting about 95% of whatever they can back. Okay, so there's about 5% of waste that they can't do anything with. The biggest problem they've got is there isn't enough batteries to recycle. There's too many recyclers and not enough batteries. So going out there and killing batteries is not as easy as what maybe Wall Street has said that was going to be. They last a long time. These things are not, dying by the millions. I heard a lady gave some sort of a her views on what was going on with batteries and how evil they are. Well, I think it's crap, because she was saying things like we can't, what are we going to do? And they're going to go into a great big giant rat hole and millions are dying every year. That's not possible. They're not dying, but what is dying is the recyclers who said, "Hey, I put the money in. Where's all these dead batteries I can get my hands on?" They aren't dying. They're not dying fast enough. We have to go and shoot a few. It's going to be like I can't think of anything more stupid. But there's nothing. I mean, the batteries are really rugged. We've torn everybody's apart. Granted, LG had some little problems there, and GM and yak. I mean, there's a lot of people have problems, but eventually they get solved. It's just another math problem. That's all. That's all it is. Another math problem.
Jordan, do you want to comment on it?
Yeah. So as Sandy said, these batteries last a long time. A lot of the recycling that you do is actually scrap material from the factories, and then batteries that, whatever your battery supply was maybe 10 or 15 years ago. So I think it's going to continue to be like 5 to 10% of the materials we get come from recycling as we're moving up this scaling curve over the next decade. But after that, that's where it becomes really interesting, where you have most of the vehicles transitioned to batterized vehicles. And then you have this supply of raw materials that you just keep recycling, and it's going to drive down the cost of those batteries because the recycled materials are going to be cheaper. And it's going to be important over the next 5 to 10 years, but next decade is where I'm really excited about it. We won't have to get as much nickel, for instance, from other places.
Or lithium. Lithium is the one that is really a problem. And by the way, I don't know if you heard, but Canada just told China that they have to divest from 3 of the lithium mines and refiners. So that'll help us out here a little bit in the United States. But nickel's relatively simple. Wow, there you go. You just got your handle on everything.
I'm a fast typer. What can I say?
I guess I can't type that fast. By now, I would have been able to spell my name. But anyways, I see this and cobalt, like lithium and cobalt. By the way, to show you what a bad Canadian am I didn't know there was a city named Cobalt in Ontario that's all they did. I mean, how do we miss that one? But anyways, I think that the bringing back of lithium from existing batteries and whatnot in about 10 or 15 years. That's going to be a significant amount, and there'll probably be, if I'm if I'm reclaiming this stuff, I don't think I'd sell it. I think I'd go into the battery building business, because I mean, I'd be getting, people would be paying me to take away the batteries. Then I'd extract the most expensive materials that I'd need, and why shouldn't I go and put them into my own batteries? I mean, this looks like, to me anyways, a good place to invest if you're, young like you guys. If I'm hoping to get through for about another 6 months anyway. So. But anyway, yeah, I would be investing heavily into long-term, 10 years kind of a thing. 10 years, that's going to be the business to be a shareholder in. Yeah.
Got it.
Stock
Sure to go for it.
advice.
Yeah, with what Sandy was saying about why sell this material off to other people, I think that's what JB Straubel is going to do with Redwind Materials. He's already
Yeah, so do
talking
I.
about taking that material and creating finished products with it. And basically what Tesla's been doing is they've been moving from like the vehicle upstream into the supply chain, whereas Redwood is going to go the opposite direction. They're going to start with those raw materials and work their way through the value chain to producing batteries and packs. So
yeah. Hey, didn't those guys used to get along, Elon and? Oh, never mind. Oh, I don't want to get into it. Yeah.
Uh-oh.
yeah, I
Hey,
guess-
I tell
something
you,
there.
I'll go north.
There's
You go
something
south,
there.
and let's see what happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll be both rich by the time we get to the other side of the planet. Yeah, I'm very certain that this is the kind of stuff that's going to be happening. And like I said, I listen to lots of authorities, and I just don't know how they got to where they got to. To me, this is all obvious, and it's certainly not the horror story that they keep pushing down our throats. So.
How much of this sort of development is crucial for the scaling of that cheaper vehicle, which is going to dramatically increase the number of vehicles on the road that are EV, or is it independent? Is it more long term? This sort of recycling question. How do you think about that?
It's more long term. I think that it's more long term. We have enough available materials right now, and there's always going to be the same sort of a deal. You're going to have the ability to get cheaper recycled materials, but then people are also going to want virgin stock as well, and they'll mix it together. So I think that
Dun dun dun.
Yeah, yeah, we all know who that is. Anyways,
should I bring out my guitar?
Anyway, yeah. So I think that there's going to be plenty of opportunities, and as ICE goes away and EVs move up, you're going to see things scrapping out at a much more furious rate. I think you're going to see ICE disappear almost as fast as horses, and that's a fact. Yeah.
Wow. We were talking about everything's a math problem. If you were to put this is probably a very hard question, and this is sort of, I guess, to you and Jordan both. Like, if you're trying to estimate the per year production that can be sustained by the next, like, the supply chain capabilities for through the end of 2030, what do you really think it can support, sort of the 50% or even 60% of total new units produced that year to be EV, or do you still think we need some insane changes in how we're approaching it, or are we trending towards that end goal, sort of how we expected it? I don't know if that question makes sense, but
so in 2019 I said that the 50%, the watershed, is going to be in 2030. I've moved that back to 2028, and people are telling me that I should be a little more optimistic. I think it's going to happen a lot faster as soon as gasoline gets to the real price, and the real price is going to be enough that the American buying public is going to say enough's enough. I'm out of here, and that's what's going to happen, really and truly. The economics behind all this is just gonna kill the ICE vehicles. So I believe that, yes, we'll be able to see that and more, because as we move into electric vehicles, they're going to have an ability to satisfy a market that really is ignored right now. So the African nations, the India and Pakistan and bunch of the other different countries out there. I was going to say Vietnam, but they're already way ahead of everybody. But I think that this is going to open up a market for these countries that have been underserved. I think is the best way to do it from the ICE products, because gasoline is so absolutely, or diesel fuel, whatever, petrol, has been absolutely, without a doubt, the limiting factor for these countries. And as you move forward to EVs, everything, and I mean it sincerely, everything is going to become cheaper and easier, so that these countries that have been left behind in the past will be able to catch up and well, just catch up, period, to where we are right now in what they like to call the first world countries. There's no reason in the world why we shouldn't be seeing the same sort of economic growth as what China. I mean, people forget China was a rat hole not so long ago, and now look, I'm telling you, you go to Shanghai, that's what New York wishes it was. That place is spectacular. The buildings are just to die for. The river is perfectly pristine, clean. People are going up and down there all night long with these party boats and whatnot. It's fabulous, fabulous. Shenzhen, I mean, any of these, except I'm not really a big fan. I'm not a big fan of Beijing, but hey, you know what? Everywhere else in China, it really looks nice, really nice. And not so long ago, it wasn't so nice. I mean, people lived in huts and things fell down, and they'd have plagues that would wipe out tens of thousands. They had to cut down the number of kids and all that. Now, I mean, it's a whole lot different. And I think that that same sort of change is going to happen with, like I say, the guys that are second tier right now. I think that they're going to get the boost that they need, and it's going to be through electric vehicles.
Yeah.
Farzad, I don't know if it's kind of in the same light. I think there was, at least I heard about, that Elon was interviewed or gave an interview to the G20 either yesterday or today. And
that's right.
During the interview, he referenced the $20,000 vehicle. That was
20,000. Oh, really?
Yeah, 20,000 was the figure I saw.
Whoa.
I did not hear the interview.
That's to produce, right?
Let me see if I can pull it up.
Oh, to produce 20,000. That's he's lying again. He could probably produce for about 18 grand, 15, 18 grand. He's just that's just to make the other guys think that maybe they'd have a chance in the not too distant future. Yeah. To produce is one thing. Selling and producing is different numbers.
Yeah. So actually, this might be a perfect segue for one of the videos that. So you're familiar with Dr. Know-It-All, Sandy?
Yeah.
John. Yeah. So
didn't you ever
guy.
see? I took my shirt off in a bar and gave it to him.
That's right.
Yeah, did I know him?
Oh
I mean,
my
we're almost
God.
like blood brothers.
Holy
Actually,
shit.
you know what caused that? I got to tell you.
Please.
that was the guys from Aptera got me to start drinking. Normally I just drink scotch and beer and sometimes wine, but that's pretty much what I do, right? And the guys at Aptera got me to start drinking what the hell's that thing? Margaritas. Okay.
Oh yeah, tequila, baby.
And the next thing I knew, I was stripping in a bar. I mean, what the hell?
Literally, not
no
figuratively.
Wonder.
Literally.
They put an umbrella in here. We'll give them to the ladies. I know what's going on now. if I was taking my clothes and people were applauding, and everybody was drinking them damn things. So now I know now.
There you go.
If only I
Because you're a
would've
man
known
of the
that when I was
people,
younger.
Sandy. Come on now. You're a man of the
Yeah, man of
people.
the
You know,
people.
you wanna hack actually for margaritas, not to like derail this conversation completely, but mezcal. Like do tequila and mezcal. Mezcal's a little bit smoky. If you like a smoky
Yeah, yeah.
flavor,
All right,
it takes
well,
it to the next level. Yeah.
I'll take
Yeah.
I'll take
So
take
your
you up
pants
on
might
that.
come off with that. I'm just kidding. I'm just gonna shut up now.
That's
Okay.
already happened. Too late. Go on. Keep going.
All right, $25,000 car, 20,000. Here we go. So Hans, set the stage for us here. This is a Dr. Know-It-All video. I think you have the timestamp for me queued up, and maybe give us a little bit of color, because this is going to be obviously incredibly. This is the how we get to the 50, 100% EV market share. We need cheaper vehicles. So Hans, go ahead and give us some color, and then I'll play from the timestamp.
Yeah, so John had come up with, just thought through the design process of what a $20,000 or $25,000, whatever the next generation car might look like, back in 2020, and then he resurfaced this video here just this week of just going through his thought process in that. And so he put together just a little mock-up in a little 3D rendering program of what his thought processes were. And so he's kind of thinking, probably go with Cybertruck style manufacturing process, use the 30X steel and fold it. And then he makes some interesting design decisions on the passenger placement. So anyways, I was just curious, yeah, if we look at what he's thinking in this, his design thought process, what your feedback for that would be, and then if we look forward, what might be some of the other options for producing a car in that price point.
Yeah,
Great.
perfect. How long did you want me to go in? And Hans, maybe like a few minutes. You know how long we want to go in?
Yeah, just walk through until we kind of get an idea of what the overall vehicle looks like.
Okay, cool. If it seems like I'm going too far, just give me a signal. I'll be on the lookout. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I'm probably going to go on mute so I don't double audio this thing. And then if I know how to use my computer, and then we'll get started. Here we go. Share.
Idea. And then we'll come back and I'll talk.
Whoops.
This is not it. Look at this. You guys thought I knew how to use the computer.
Wait,
It's
that's like two mirrors. I mean, holy mackerel.
It's the Matrix. It's the Matrix.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, here we go. Let me try again.
Here we are.
Process again. Now that I've talked a little bit about the design process, let's take a look at the outcome. So as you notice, it actually, because of random things, it actually ended up taking a lot of cues from the Cybertruck. So it kind of looks like that. It looks like a smaller version of it, but there are significant differences. So certainly there is 30X stainless steel with straight edges. So everything can be bent and shaped very easily out of very few pieces of steel. It's got a nearly symmetrical wing shape. So the air kind of flows over the top and it flows back down the end. So you don't have that kind of classic, like small car, like flat back where you get a lot of vortices. And that is afforded by the fact that the rear passengers are facing towards the rear instead of towards the front. And there's two in each one. This particular angle doesn't show them both, but there are a driver, passenger. So there's 4 people in the car. The storage, because of the way that these people are sitting, the storage is actually placed between the passengers here. Notice that there is a rear-facing rear door for ease of entry. So that should be relatively easy. It's more or less symmetrical with the front door just a little bit shorter. There's also a very low clearance flat bottom for improved aerodynamics, right? So the air is essentially, the idea is to make the air flow around this as laminarly as possible. Moving on here to a semi-transparent view where you can see a little bit better. There's a front crumple zone that's built in. There's a single motor here. You can't really see it, but it's basically right near where the axle is, which is more or less the way the Model 3 and the Model Y look right now. There's a single piece roll cage. So if you go back to here, you can see this a little bit better, but this is a single piece here. And so the roll cage is extra strong because of that. The top doesn't have a sunroof. That's also a single piece. So you create a kind of a shell here, which makes it very, very strong. There's a rear crumple zone. You also have rear airbags facing towards the back. So in case there's a rear-end collision, the passengers will have airbags that will come out and help them. Also run flat tires. There's not enough room to put a spare in a compact car. So you add run flat tires, which are more expensive, but they're certainly a huge advantage because you don't have to worry about a flat so much. Again, the storage is between the passengers here with the seats up, and there are 4 passengers in here. There's still quite a bit of room for storage there. And finally, there's a 50 kilowatt hour battery, approximately. Again, maybe you could get away with a little bit smaller one if you're only looking for a 400 kilometer range. And finally, here's a close-up of the back seat where the seat is actually pulled out. So again, the seat pulls forward like this, and then this seat folds or flips down like this. So it slides back and down, not folded on top. So it gives you extra room in terms of storage space. And again, my thought is that you would have something like a
Yeah, that's the bulk of all the design decisions that he thought through right there. So
What are you thinking, Sandy?
Okay, so the government won't let you have rear-facing seats. If we could have done that, we would have been doing it a lot more, especially when you got into, for lack of a better word, SUVs and station wagons. They don't like them. They just don't like them. So getting just past that would be more than enough to unfortunately kill the deal right from the get-go. Using stainless steel is a nice idea for the Cybertruck, but it's not cheap. Stainless steel is like more expensive than aluminum and quite a bit heavier. I think that if I was going to design a car that I wanted to produce by the millions, and that's kind of like the only way to get down to those kind of numbers, I would probably have something a lot more conventional looking. And by the way, I know a fair amount about airplanes as well, and having something that looks like a wing might be a bit of an issue. I've never seen a car in a chamber that looked like that, like a wind tunnel. But my first reaction is, I wonder if I'm going to get lift, and if I am, then I got real issues. I'd rather have turbulence than a lift. At the end of the day, everybody's got a concept and whatnot, but if I was going to design the cheapest possible car I could, I probably wouldn't pick an exoskeleton for my, unless I was using carbon fiber. But then carbon fiber doesn't really work out well when you get to millions of product. You have to there's a whole bunch of things you have to take into consideration, and everything's a trade-off when you design a car or an airplane. You have to trade off the differences between how much does this cost versus that. You trade off looks and features to get to where you need to get to, and usually it takes those are called charrettes. I don't know if you ever heard that term, but you get a bunch of people in a room that have got a whole bunch of different ideas. Everybody kind of like argues for 2 weeks, and then you wind up with something that nobody is 100% happy with, but everybody is ready to go on. And that's kind of how it would work. And I'm not 100% sure, but I do know that rear-facing seats would be great, but I don't think the government's going to allow it. NHTSA will kill that right there. So that's unfortunate. I hate to be the bearer. It was so much fun. Can we go back to Richard and talk about Harvard and lawyers again? That was yeah.
Sean, go for it.
Yeah.
Right. So Sandy, just to follow up on that, two questions actually. One, let's say this vehicle potentially will serve primarily as an urban vehicle, so with potentially lower range requirements as well. So what kind of a battery pack size, and Jordan, this goes for you as well, could we do with potentially a 30-35 kilowatt hour pack instead of 50 or higher? And then with Tesla's technologies, with FSD, and crash safety, predictive crash safety essentially coming in, where the idea is that don't get into a crash. If somebody's going to crash into you, get away from there.
Yeah.
Could potentially some of these things, for example, where the car doesn't have to be structurally as rigid as today, or potentially a rear passenger seat could face the other way, and NHTSA is hopefully okay with that. Could we go towards a world like that where this is being sort of factored in, that the sheer number of crashes and the intensity of crashes will potentially go down?
Okay, so I am a big fan of a city car, a car that is not allowed on the expressway. And the reason for that is because I believe that we could get away with maybe a 25 to 35 kilowatt hour battery. And the reason for that is because, as I mentioned, I drove from Windsor all the way home, and I gained miles because of regen. When you get into city driving, you get an advantage that you're never going to get out of an ICE vehicle, ever, never, ever, 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 never. And if I was going to do that, why do I need anything that looks aerodynamic? I don't. I would just make some kind of a box, and that would be uber cheap to manufacture. I'd have as much storage as I want. I could put the seats wherever I want them. And quite frankly, if I got self-driving, why wouldn't I be able to turn the seats around and everybody can face whatever direction they want? I think that really and truly the car of the future is going to kind of look like a boring, but it's going to be looking like a square box. And you got room that you can put your luggage and whatnot in the front and the back. You can even, if you want to turn things around and have it so the seats face in the wrong direction. I had kids. I don't like that idea from that standpoint as well. I don't know what's going on back there, but it's going to be trouble. Anyhow, I think it's going to be a much, much simpler vehicle with a much smaller battery than we're used to. And that's my idea of a city car. I believe that that we can get that done in no time flat. And I believe that it should be something for the LAs, the New York cities, every congested town we've got, Atlanta, whatever, all over the place. That should be, but not a highway kind of a vehicle.
Is this so? One of the things that I've been speculating about, and because what I'm trying to figure out is that the cheaper car and the Robotaxi the same thing. That's really one of my biggest sort of like what is Tesla's sort of strategy here? And when you describe the sort of the box and you can do whatever you want thing, it sort of like ties back. This is a render that Tesla created. When I click on it, it like does something stupid. So I'm just going to keep it here. This is a render that I can't remember if it was for Boring Company or SpaceX. I think it was Boring Company, but this is sort of like one of the mock-ups they use. But this is not too far away from what you just described. I think,
Yeah.
it might not be glass or whatever, but it's a box. You can fully customize the interior to whatever use case you might want to do. So is this possible at 20,000?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how many seats it's got and things like that, but I'd be more inclined to look at something like this as opposed to any of the other pictures you've got here. Why do I need a sloping hood if I've got a city car? Why do I need anything like that? There's no reason. There's none. That's only for aerodynamics. If I'm in a city, there are no aerodynamic advantages until you get to above 50 miles an hour. Aero means zip, nothing. So what you see there in the upper right is pretty much what I would go for. I would even make it more boxy than that, simply because I don't need to have any. If it's a taxi, I mean the most successful taxi, as far as I'm concerned, is a London cab, and they're nothing to look at, and that's for sure. But there's plenty of room inside. I mean, it's great, fabulous room. People are happy. There you go. And is there one with the doors open? That's what really makes it fun.
Let me see.
When you can see, and it's made for handicap and all kinds of stuff. There you go. So, so if you look maybe right there where you've got the cursor, or that one or the other, if you can click on that one, bring it up. Okay, so there you go. There you got rear facing seats. You've got access way that if you want a handicapped person can get in there with a wheelchair. I mean, this is made for the environment. Now, all you got to do is see where they've got the windshield there. Just move the windshield forward, because you know what? I don't need that big box in the front. I don't have an engine, so I can do whatever I want. And this is the kind of thing that I think is going to be coming up soon. And I wouldn't dream. You know what? If you cut this thing right in half, just slice it right down the middle, and put the front and the rear as symmetrically opposite pieces, and push them together, there's your car. I think that's what I would do. I would cut it at the B pillar, and I would move the rear of the car and the front of the car look exactly the same. And then I could get, if I wanted to, I could get a dozen people in there. This would be the perfect little limo, whatever, for getting people around in the city. Would I put it on the expressway? No, it wouldn't make it anyways. I'd never talk Nishta into that. But if you take that thing, cut it in half, glue the rear end to the front end, and bingo, we have our new vehicle, and everybody's going to be happy. And the suicide doors, there's no such thing. They aren't suicide doors, they're opera doors. And put that in there, and people could get in and out easily. Got plenty of room for seats, lots of room for baggage, luggage, whatever. When I go to London, I bring my if I'm going to be there for any length of time, I have this massive suitcase that not any baggage handler could possibly break. It's got 3 great big clamps on it that hold it shut, and I can get that thing in there no problem whatsoever. I love those things. We don't have them too much over here, but I like them over there. And one of the reasons is it's got a rear-facing seat, so kind of kills it right from the get-go.
How would you build that
Yeah.
body, Sandy? Would you use just aluminum traditional construction, or would you try and do a casting?
No, I would just a casting for the lower area. Yes, I would do that, because I'd want to take advantage of the the build strategy that you can get from a casting. So the bottom would be a casting, and the top would be just simple stampings. And I'd make it so that it was symmetrically opposite. So every time I hit one, boom, it could be a front, it could be a back, it could be a front door or a rear door. It would be exactly the same. Exactly. Everything would be identical. Identical. And my symmetrically opposite would be, it just happened to be turned around. They would be symmetrical, but when you glued them together, they would be symmetrically opposite. Yeah, so that's where you can really lower the price a lot. The back end of a car is much cheaper than the front of a car.
So when you're thinking about the $20,000 vehicle that Elon's throwing around, is this what this is? Is it a fully autonomous, fully customizable, I guess, interior that is a feature built for more of an urban city style driver or experience, or whatever you want to call it, that's going to avoid highways? Or is it 2 vehicles? What do you think about that?
What I want is, because most of the people that live in a big city. I mean, that's it. Just look at the look at one of the maps that they made up with for the election, and look at where all the blue stuff is and where all the red stuff is. And as one commentator said, land doesn't vote. Hey, you know what? That means most of the population is in an urban area. Why are we designing products for urban type travel? It seems strange to me that we aren't looking at that. It's a totally untapped market. Okay, so that tells you where the population is, and there you are.
Yeah, population density. Yeah.
Yeah, in some of those areas, I can tell you for sure, because Corey and I cut across from way up there in Oregon all the way down to as far south as you can go in the continental U.S. So down in Texas, and man, I'll tell you, when you get through the center, there's nothing. I mean, zero. they don't even have grass. They don't have weeds, nothing. All it is just rocks and shit. There's nothing goes on in there. So why are we designing a high-speed vehicle to go through that when the majority of the people are just living somewhere around the, near those red marks? That's an untapped, as far as I'm concerned, that's where taxis are. You don't put taxis going across country. That's why you have an airplane. You just need taxis in where things are needed, and that to me would be an hugely inexpensive mode of transportation, and I can make that cheap all day long.
So for an urban robotaxi, like what kind of top speed would you be looking at then? How much speed would need? 45 miles an hour?
Tops, yeah. But at the end of the day, you can make it as fast as you want. It would just make, if you tried to get on an off ramp, beep 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 beep. No, I don't think so, and that would be it for an on ramp. That's what if you're going to build it in, you're not going to go on the expressways. Period. Just that, and expressways at 45 miles an hour, that ain't going to happen. But you need enough guts to get out of the way of to get moving and to get out of the way of a situation. So that would be in there. Electric motors move quick. So that part be all taken care of. But anybody that's spent any time in New York City or Tokyo or any place, you can get around just fine on the city streets. And that's mainly where you're going to want to go. If you're going from one borough to the next in New York, you don't need anything other than a square box to get you from here to there. That's it. And a robo-taxi in an urban area, as long as the city's been set. So you need more signaling or communication between intersections for true robo-taxi, because corners are really a bitch. You can't. Anyway, you need a little bit more input from the cities to make that all happen. But once it's in, then you could say, okay, this is a city car. And by the way, you got to take your high-speed vehicle and go and park it somewhere. And then you get into a robo-taxi, a city car. And you go from there.
You should go for it.
Okay. Yeah. So one case that I potentially see for some aerodynamics in the vehicle is when that urban vehicle also would potentially have to go through a, let's say, boring company tunnel, where limiting speed to, let's say, 40-45 miles in a tunnel where the vehicle is driving autonomously doesn't make sense, right? I mean, if it's a 10-mile tunnel, you can probably do it in seconds rather than minutes. Then why not?
Yeah, well, that's a totally different application. And what goes into that tunnel stays in the tunnel. I mean, if you go to Vegas, you've got a bunch of Model 3s and Model S's going around. That's fine. But they don't spend much time going on the road. They're going back and forth. And that's what you'd wind up having. So for that type of a vehicle, you could make it go faster. That's no big wow. As far as speed, tunnels don't like you to go much faster than about 25, 30 miles an hour anyway. And by the way, when you do that, you've got to get rid of wind resistance. So that's why on all tunnels, you've got suck and blow everywhere, to make sure that you don't get impeded by air pressure. So that's all there.
Yeah.
But you guys are missing out on. Look at all this stuff. eVTOL. We only got a few minutes left, and
I know there's so much to
and
cover.
Gigacastings. So much.
We had promised Jordan last time that he was here that we're gonna take up eVTOLs with Sandy.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah. We may, if you're up for it at a later day, we'd love to have you back too, because there's so much. There's so much here to discuss. Yeah. I definitely want to be respectful of everyone's time too. The one question I had around the 25,000 car, though, if we could just hit that one more time, how much regulatory change would need to happen in the States for them to be able to have a vehicle like you described? Is this like a jurisdiction by jurisdiction basis, where maybe Miami, Arizona, like a Phoenix or something, say, yep, you can operate this thing, no problem, or is it going to take a larger regulatory sort of effort? How do you think about that?
The first thing that we need to get across to the federal government people is, let's get rid of wing mirrors, side view mirrors. Why in the hell are they there? I can see plenty fine with cameras. Well, I could see much better if the rear view mirror was actually a camera. In fact, GM's got some cars that I've thrown GM under the bus. Let's throw them a bone here. They've got a nice camera or a nice TV set in the rear view mirror. I want that. I don't want to look at. It's foggy outside. It's raining outside. It's the rear window hasn't been defrosted yet. Beep. My camera comes on and it works just fine. The wing mirror. Do you know how many? I don't want to get into this, but I had an ex-wife, and she had a raw problem getting into certain areas, and what would happen? Bang, that thing was gone. How many times have I seen, one of these things dangling off the side of some kid going to college, and maybe they had a few pops too many or something like that. They hit a ball, and now it's just dangling there, scratching up the. I don't want that. I don't need that. I want cameras. Actually, I want something that nobody wants to put in, but FLIR, forward-looking infrared. I don't like LiDAR. I don't like radar. Cameras are nice. They're interesting, but you know what? They don't work in a fog. But you know what? I work on military projects. And when I'm going to shoot a missile at something that's a long ways off, and it's foggy or snowing or raining or whatever, I don't care. I know it's in that direction. I know that it's going to have some kind of a heat signature. I go click, and it hits the target every time. Amazing, amazing. Why are we not looking at that? I don't get it. I don't understand it. And by the way, it comes out in color. This isn't one of these little green and gray images that you see, or red. I love the red one because, you see all these kids' heads and whatnot. They're all bright red, and wow, we have a bunch of aliens. But you know what? If you have FLIR, you can see the color of the sweater that the kid's wearing. You can see bushes that aren't visible with normal vision systems or radar. Radar, you know what? They invented that during World War II. Think on that's ponderous. So anyways, I think that what we really and truly need to do is first get NHTSA to allow us to get rid of side mirrors. And here's another thing. What do you think is the worst part of aerodynamics on a car? If you guessed wing mirrors, you would be correct.
Yeah.
The whole of the Aptera car, it's a 3-wheel solar vehicle. The whole of that car has less drag than the wing mirrors on an F-150 truck. How about that? Yeah, there's the
right here, right?
Yeah, I've got one of those on order too. Anyway, I want to drive for free. I want to have 1,000 miles of charge, 1,000 miles of range based on solar panels. I like that idea a lot. I am a big fan of not giving away any more money than I absolutely have to. And by the way, see those little teeny tiny wing mirrors? Guess what part gives them the most amount of drag? Why can't we get rid of these things? There must be some really old stodgy guy, and he must eat lemons continuously to get that really bitter feeling or whatever. Nobody's gonna get my job. Okay, that's the guy we need to move out of the way. He needs to go away back into the history books or wherever the hell he came from, so that we can get rid of wing mirrors. There's no reason why that can't happen. I don't even want to talk about what regulations we'd have to pass for a city car until I can get one regulation, just one regulation change. Get rid of the damn wing mirrors. I only need one thing. Give me that, and then all of a sudden everything else is a piece of cake. Everybody it just rolls off like water on a duck's back. Easy peasy.
Ishan, go for it, and then
Sandy, I
we'll
have a
start wrapping it
question.
up. I want to be respectful of Sandy's time. Go for it.
Yeah, Sandy, on the Aptera, why do we have those two little things coming out of the doors? Why are they not on the wheel well?
The two little things, you mean the wing mirrors?
Yeah.
Oh, those are fender skirts. Believe me, on mine they would disappear.
Okay.
Yeah, those are sometimes they're called fender skirts, sometimes they're called wheel
No.
pants.
No, I meant the wing mirrors that we have that house the camera.
That's
Why are they not on the wheel well, and why are they sticking out?
Oh,
because that's what the government says.
yeah.
And you know, the government is always right. Of course they are. Of course, they have to be right. We elected them.
Your rants about bureaucracy are always cathartic for me, by the way. I worked in the government department for like 13 years, and just the stuff I saw was just, chewing on nails all day long. So.
I have had more arguments with to be a government man, you got a book. You got a book in front of you. You get the job, you read the book. Once you've read the book, any question that comes in, you pick up the book, you read the book, you recite whatever the book said. The book said no, and that's the end of the discussion. You put the book down and wait for the next fool to come in and ask the same question or a question in general. When was the book written? In the case of the FAA, 1948, and there's been no progress, none whatsoever, none, no progress in physics or mechanics, not electronics, forget all that shit. Here it is, right here in the book. I read the book.
Wow.
I know you can't do that. It says right here, no. Next. Holy sh! Oh,
Yeah,
it's very.
It's incredibly frustrating. It has to be incredibly frustrating.
It is. It's really tragic too, because I think all products could be less money and probably be safer and more fuel efficient for sure. Even if they just took them off of cars and we got an extra couple of miles per gallon, just another couple of miles per gallon we don't have to buy from somebody else.
Yeah,
because we haven't got enough to feed ourselves right now. I don't want to get into that one either. But I think that really and truly every one of these old-fashioned books should be scrubbed, and so that they can be brought up to today. Actually, I take care of even if it's like 10 years ago. I mean, I'd go for that, but not from the 40s or 50s. None of you guys were even born in the 40s or 50s.
Not even close.
You go. Oh, well, there's another old guy here.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead. Oh, yeah.
Sorry,
Facts. Love you, Richard. No, if there's one big contrast that I see between sort of what you just described, which is that bureaucracy and everything is, and so we were talking about this before we went live, is that the one thing that really stands out to me, not just about you, Sandy, but the team you've compiled at Munro, that they're the exact opposite. If I watch all the videos you guys have put together, the amount of talent you guys have at that company is nuts. And it reminds me a lot of my time at Tesla when I was there. It's like you can tell that there's a clear culture of accountability. There's a clear sort of way of approaching how to hire folks, how to ensure that they're happy there. I can tell everybody's happy working there. And you shared some of your philosophy before we went live, but I think that might be important to share as well for sort of the broader public here, and also to announce that I'm sure you're looking for folks to join your company as well. But maybe share some thoughts on that respect.
Yeah, so Munro is basically a self-directed company. The people who get the job are paid to get the job done. I don't want to have a bunch of checkers and things like that. I want them to be on their own and doing what's right for the company. And yes, we are looking for people. 10 or 15 more engineers would be well received, and maybe a chemist. But at the end of the day, it's hard to get into Munro. Out of 100 people that come and interview, or send in their resume, maybe 5 or 6 get an interview, and maybe one might get a job. But at the end of the day, we are hiring. We don't have enough people. We'd like to have more people. Our customers say they'd like to get the jobs done faster with the same degree of accuracy. And so consequently, yes, we're looking. And as far as benefits and whatnot, we got more benefits than almost anybody I don't know of, except for government people. They get more benefits. But apart from that, yeah, I mean, we pay better than the going rate, and for the right people. And if you're interested in doing a job that you get up every morning and say, "Yippee, I'm going to work," then that's kind of like the kind of person we're looking for. I'm not interested in one of these what do they call them now? Quiet quitters. That won't work here.
The buzzword nowadays.
That doesn't work. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I really appreciate you sharing that. Yeah, definitely check it out. So, and I pulled up a website. I'm assuming if folks are interested, munro.live.com/careers, right?
Yeah.
Looks like you can email hr@leandesign.com if you're interested. Yeah, man, I really want to really congratulate Corey, everybody at that company. I mean, you guys have been, I told Corey at Tesla, and I'm like, I'm shocked you guys put out the content that you do for free for people to view, because there's just so much valuable insight. Like, I'm not an engineer, but after watching y'all's videos, I feel like it's so easy to absorb. And I think everybody in the Tesla community really enjoys your work, because we have this sort of interesting thing happening with this company that, I think of Apple and how they came to prominence. It's like, well, oh my God, they have a visionary leader and their products are just so cool to use. But now with Tesla, it feels like it's attracted this incredible engineering sort of thing that hasn't existed before, where people are really passionate about how the thing is built internally. Like we can talk about 2 hours on wiring harnesses. Like, that is the nerdiest shit I've ever heard, but people are so interested about it, and you guys have made it so fun and easy to digest. So huge congrats to you guys, and you deserve every single bit of accolades that you guys get, and I can see you guys becoming 1 to 5 million subscribers at some point. Jordan, likewise to you, man. I think the amount of work you've put in on the battery front, we got bills written based on your work in the United States government, and I just want to give you both a huge shout out. Honestly, I mean, you guys are incredible assets to the community, not just from an investment perspective, but just following the company and learning. So kudos to both of you. Thank you so much for joining me today. Any parting thoughts before we head off here, Sandy or Jordan?
Well, what you just said about how we were helping people understand what's going on, shouldn't that be everybody's responsibility? I mean,
absolutely.
We could probably charge for that stuff, but we found that there's more people that would like to know, but really not interested in paying for it. And I know I can tell you for sure, there are universities that watch our shows. There are OEMs that watch our shows in every part of the world. I mean, we get comments back from India, China, Japan, Russia. I mean, everywhere. Germany, and not so much from VW. They don't like it. But anyway, other people. Lots of people want to see how things are going. And so we give you an overview, but Jordan is actually giving you a lot more depth when it comes to the batteries. So I'll let Jordan jump right in there.
One thing I noticed when we were at Texas is we seem to share a passion for doing things less stupid, and share a passion for American manufacturing. And that's what I took away from the event is and conversations seem to be returning to that. So whenever I talk to you guys, I enjoy it. So thanks for having me on. It was good. Good being able to ask Sandy some questions, and I have a lot more. I know there's a lot of knowledge locked away there. Thank
absolutely.
You.
No, I think if you guys are down for it, I'd love to make this happen as often as you guys can. I think for me, it's super. It helps me understand the story so much better. I'm sure I could speak for the entire panel here, but I also find it very valuable. So, whenever you guys are up for it again, I would love to host this discussion again. And maybe next time we'll get into the eVTOL. Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, well, I'm here for you, Prasad. No problem.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you guys.
All
All
right.
right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in with us. Thank you, Borghan. Thank you, Hans. Thank you, Ishan. Thank you, everybody in the comments. I saw the chat. Everything was super respectful and great conversation. Again, thank you, Sandy. Thank you, Jordan. And we're broadcasting here. All right, everybody. We'll see you on the next one. And broadcast.